Welcome to Inspired by Design, the podcast where we explore the tools, stories, and insights to help you rediscover your authentic self and navigate life with less resistance. I'm Katie Rupert, a former hustle and grind overachiever on a thrilling and messy journey. I'd love to share what I'm learning and help others in self-discovery using human design. So, if you're seeking a way to move forward, let me be your weekly mindset coach and share stories to inspire you to action towards your unique purpose without the force or burnout. Friends, before we jump into this episode, I wanted to give you a little update from about 6 weeks in the future. So here's what I mean. We had this conversation and I took Michal's advice to heart. I took the time as we went into this new phase of the moon cycle. You'll understand a little bit more after you hear the interview. But I took these last couple of days to be super intentional about resting and letting myself fully stop, slow down, and internally give permission to just exist, to just nourish myself, to just contemplate, to rest, to take walks. Thankfully, I had a couple of beautiful sunny walks and the birds are coming out and enjoying nature without any rush. And I can't wait for you to hear the catalyst for why I was so intentional about this current moon phase. So what's cool is that whenever you are hearing this, especially if you're hearing it on Friday the 24th, it's the perfect right time to start this moon phase planning by giving yourself a full day of rest, of slowing down, of giving yourself permission to stop. And when you allow that rest and you allow that stop, you can trust and begin building the trust with your inner self that it's going to be okay, that the rest actually gives you the fuel that you need to get more done in the other phases. So let me introduce you to our guest today. Michal McCracken is a transformational coach, CEO, Queen Energy Mentor, and she's the host of an amazing podcast called Space and Grace. Her mission is to help ambitious women entrepreneurs step into their power, simplify success, and create thriving businesses with more ease and joy. Through mindset shifts, intuitive strategy, and practical tools, she guides women towards confidence and freedom, both in life and in business. I'm also thrilled that I get to introduce you to another fellow manifesting generator. Michal is a 5-1. She has emotional authority, which gives her a unique blend of powerful leadership and practical wisdom. She's a natural teacher, a lifelong learner, and thrives when she follows what lights her up. And whenever she gives herself the time and permission to feel into her decisions until there's clarity, clarity will always come. Let's get into it. Michal, thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored to get to talk with you today.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yay. Okay. Well, I met you on one of your summits. I couldn't tell you how I got in where I self-selected to come, but it was perfect because it was all about moving from hustle to flow in your business. And I, at the time, was really hustling, trying to chase after a title in my Pampered Chef business. And I thought, I really want to show my team that it's possible to work less and still get the same amazing results. And I knew that your summit was part of my answer because I had already started doing some of that work. And I fell in love with everything you said and all the speakers that you had lined up. And this moon phase productivity guide. I downloaded it right away. I printed it off. That's when it's really official. And I had already been so intrigued by cycle planning, but I wasn't sure how to do it. And like some other women, my personal cycle wasn't quite regimented enough for it to work out the way that it's supposed to. So the moon phase planning really, really struck me. I want to know everything about you because I know that my listeners are going to be hanging on every word. You're steps ahead of where I am in this journey, but you've built a couple of businesses, and I see you
helping and being so focused on helping women and entrepreneurs make this actual thing happen and not end up just thinking about how it would be nice to have more flow and ease, but how do we actually do it? And you help people do that. I want to know what this CEO Queen energy is all about and how would I practice that? Can you tell us a little background? And also, I want to know about the CEO thing too.
Okay, well, I'll start with the background. And if I go on a tangent and forget to circle back to the CEO Queen Energy, just ask me again.
And tangents are always welcome here. So,
So I have the same story, similar to you, Katie. I mean, I built my own business as well and did it through hustle, blood, sweat, tears. Didn't know that there was another way to do it and got burned out. And so I sold that business. And so when I was trying to figure out what to do next, I took parts of the business that I liked, dropped the bits that I didn't, and built another business, which worked really well over COVID. And then during that time, I learned about the coaching industry. Like I was in a group where we were getting coached, and I was like, what is this? This is amazing. So, of course, like you mentioned, I'm a 5-1. So I did a deep dive into coaching. I got certified as a coach. And so now I'm building Space and Grace and coaching. And the whole vibe is we all know how to hustle. We've all pushed. We've all, done the blood, sweat, and tears things. But what else is available? Because that sucked. Like I built a business that I should have loved. It was a dog daycare. I should have absolutely loved it. And I was responsible for every single thing, everything that happened, all the decisions. That was all me. And I did have 2 human babies during that time. And even though my team was amazing and they really supported me, and I was only at the building 3 days a week, I was constantly thinking about it. I was worrying about it. It was a 24/7 gig, added to the fact that, babies never sleep. And I was not the sort of person, you know how people give that advice, like you should sleep when the baby sleeps? I'm like, oh no,
right.
I'm going to work when the baby sleeps so I can get stuff done, right? So anyway, all that to say is that I know how to build a financially successful business that doesn't feel like a success because you're completely exhausted. So
Yes.
I'm like, well, I can't do that again. So how do I learn how to build a business that is financially successful where I have time and energy? So even though this is a completely different model, the coaching is a completely different model. Like it's not like it is still hours based when I do the coaching, but I could do it from anywhere. I'm not tied to a location. I don't have to be open for a certain amount of hours per day. Even though it's a completely different business, how I started when I was building this business was still by bringing in all of that stuff that I'd learned, that pushing, hustling, like what else do I need to learn? What else do I need to do kind of energy. And so as I've evolved and as my business has evolved, I've been learning about the more feminine ways of doing things, the more feminine business principles as opposed to the masculine. But I blend the two because
Right.
I'll just touch on that for a second. The masculine is like the strategy, the structure, but the feminine is about allowing that space to be creative and most importantly, have fun instead of just kind of pushing and struggling and forcing, just allowing you to have more fun on the journey. Because I built a dog daycare, like that should have been the most fun thing of all,
Yeah.
right? But instead of being in the room with the dogs, I was running the business.
Hmm.
Knowing what I know now, I'm like, I should have been in with the dogs, not running the business. I should have paid somebody to run the business and me go and chill out with dogs all day. But I very quickly had to take myself out of the dog lounges because I was coming into them with the wrong energy. I was like this, kind of like a busy bee or a chicken running around with its head cut off or whatever. And the dogs were like, what? And so they would play up, they would act up, and my team would be like, can you get out? Because you've just
Oh, no.
you've just come in here and racked up the dogs. So yeah. So I guess to circle back to the queen energy, what I'm working on and what I'm helping people with is the queen doesn't do stuff like that. She doesn't run around like a busy bee. She knows what she's doing. She's really dignified. She's really gracious. And that is the energy that I try and get my people to step into now. before they take action. So it's all around like, who are you being before you do? Whereas the old version of me was like, forget about the being. I'm just going to do, and go, 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 go.
Mm.
But that leads to burnout. So,
Yes. Oh, that's so key. As you were sharing about hustle, I thought, yeah, like I started this next business with that hustle energy and go, go, go. Isn't it funny that that is easier, that hard work pushing feels easier than like we don't know what to do with feminine energy, with planning based on how we feel versus like we're just told let's go and you're supposed to have the same energy every single day, and we know that's not true, and yet it's like we just don't acknowledge it as important. It's quite mind-blowing how logically we can understand it and get it, but then in reality, stepping into the energy, like what you're saying, is so foreign, so difficult. I keep thinking about your moon phasing planner, which we're going to link up so that our listeners can check it out too. This is such a neat resource and it's so profound. But I really love the idea of even just taking those first steps. And maybe you have other first steps, because I would love for you to give us some advice on how do you just get started in convincing yourself that this way is worth it and it's going to be worth the work of letting go of those compulsions to do what we've always done. Would you start them with trying the moon phase? Is there other things that you would say first? I'm really good at asking multiple questions in a row, so you can just choose the ones that you like, okay?
okay. Um, so yes, I just want to touch on the fact that yes, it is hard when you are learning to do things differently, even when you know that you're going to benefit from it. Your habits, your ego mind, your outdated conditioning that is just running the show is really going to struggle. So I always use this example where I had committed to reading a novel, just a rom-com novel. There was no personal development. It was not a business book. You know, like I said, I'm a kind of go, 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 deep dive kind of girl. And it was, I don't know, it was like a Sunday. It was on a weekend, I think. And I had committed to it. And my brain was just like, oh no, go and turn on the computer.
Mm.
You've got to be doing something. You're missing something. There's something else that you could be doing. And I actually had to white knuckle it. I had to hold on to that
Yes.
book and just go, no, I have committed to reading this novel and that is what I'm going to do, which wasn't actually that fun, but I was so curious at what my brain was doing. You know, it was a weekend. I'm allowed to read a novel on a weekend, but all that outdated programming was just like, no, you're not. So, yeah, there is, I want to say, I don't want to use the word work, but there is effort involved in changing how you do things. And you have to be really aware and curious that your brain is going to throw up all of these different reasons why you're going to fail and why you shouldn't do that. Because, I mean, your brain's doing what it is supposed to do. It's trying to keep you alive, and how it does that is keeping you doing the same stuff that you've always done. So every time you try and change or go a different way, just expect that your brain is going to have a tantrum and just be prepared for it. And what I like to do when my brain is just having a complete tantrum, I'm like, okay, I hear you. I hear you. I know this is new. I know this is scary and different, but this is what I want to do. So can you just get in the back of the bus, right? Just back off. So with the moon phase planning, I'd heard about cyclical planning, like cycle syncing, but my period is so out of whack. I'm like, if I relied on my period or the absence of, I would never get anything done. And I don't even know how I feel during the different phases of my period because it's all over the place. Like I can't do it. I didn't know how to do it. And so then I'd heard about moon phase planning and I'm like, well, that's always consistent. So why don't I just try this? And I remember I was walking my dog Daisy and I had, my brain was just buzzing with all the things that I felt like I needed to do. And I felt really, really exhausted. And I remembered that I had been intending to look into this moon phase planning kind of thing. And so I downloaded an app. I was out on the walk. I downloaded a moon phase, like a lunar app on my phone, which you can just get from the Play Store. There's heaps of free ones. And it was in the dark phase of the moon. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. I don't have to do anything. And it was the first time I'd given myself that permission to do nothing, knowing that if the resources that I'd been reading were to be trusted, knowing that if I did nothing now and really, really did nothing, then I would have more energy later on. And so during that first kind of moon cycle after that, that's where I put it into, I tested the theory and it was true. Like I'd given myself permission to do nothing for an entire phase of the moon. And I got heaps of stuff done later in the next few weeks. So it definitely works if you give yourself permission. And I would say if you download the guide, if you do nothing else, across the guide, make sure that you honor that third quarter to the dark phase of the moon. That is the most important piece for people like you and I, Katie, manifesting generators especially, and generators who just go, 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 and have a lot of capacity to go. If you honor that stage there where you book something really nice for yourself, so some sort of self-care, and you try to not have as many meetings or maybe do as many podcast interviews or anything during that time, and you kind of evaluate how things have gone in the previous month. But really, that whole phase is around you. Like, what do you need to do for you so that you can show up in all the other phases with more energy?
Right. Oh, it's built. I just love it. I love all of it. I love that you brought us back to being curious about what our brain's doing when we freak out and trying something new. I love that you talked about basically what you were saying is, you know what? I'm just going to experiment with this, which is exactly what, that's the offer on the table if you want to try living your life by your human design authority, right? It's like you just experiment with it. You don't have to trust that it's true forever. Just, try it once and see, just figure out, is this for me? And you can't do that just intellectually. There's that building of trust. The moon phase, especially, the last thing you said there was, I know that I'm going to be able to get so much done later if I give myself this rest now. And that's having your own back. That's building your internal trust with yourself that, like, I know I can work very quickly when I'm clear-headed. I know that if I sit down in a space that I've been well planned and there's not a whole bunch of crazy stuff going in, I don't know which way is which. It's just a really nice strategic tool. And going back to like one of your main goals, the blending that strategic work of your business with that feminine energetic work of, I'm going to believe that the work that I do on and in my business is just as important as the work that I do in and on my personal self. They're just as valuable, one and the other. I would love for you to kind of talk us through how, like, is there like just a really simple example of something that you did for doing the moon phases? Because I know that there's a spot where you say, what is the one activity that I'm going to plan for the phases? And then, like, do I have to do it on the new moon so that it's ready to go? Do I wait for that? And do you have an example like ready to go? I don't mean to put you on the spot there. You do.
Yeah,
Tell
I
us.
do. So my most recent example is I've just added Pinterest to my business. So I bought a course on Pinterest probably about 5 years ago and had never done it.
Mhm.
So plotting that out across the phase of the moon, normally, like the old version of me would have been like, right, this needs to be done yesterday, and I just need to work the crap out of it until it's done and dusted. And not only is it done and dusted, but it's also working for me, right? So
Yes.
that's impossible. It's absolutely impossible, but that's the sort of energy I used to have. And so with that, how I would plot that out, or how I did plot that out, is from the dark moon to the first quarter is when you start to do a little bit of research, a little bit of brainstorming. I talked to a few people, so I wasn't making any commitments. I was kind of like, do you use Pinterest? why would you use Pinterest? Why should I be on Pinterest? All that sort of stuff. And I started watching the course. So just to really wrap my head around it, because of course I'm a real sucker for good marketing. And so I know that I bought the course because the person selling the course was very good at marketing. But I was like, yeah, but is it really what I need now? Or yeah, just kind of trying to figure out what it's all about. And so then from the first quarter to the full moon is where I really got into the course and started batching the social posts.
Mm.
So I did work really, really hard during that phase, and I'm still finishing that stuff off now. So that was all around like learning how to set up the Pinterest, learning how to set up a board, learning what a pin is, making 5 pins in Canva, getting the templates, all of that sort of stuff, so that I could basically turn it into a machine. But I had to do all that work to turn it into a machine, and so really what I'm looking forward to now, so that kind of took me from the first quarter all the way to the third quarter. And now I've set that up and now I can just chill out and I can just watch my Pinterest account and see what's happening. So I can do, well, first of all, I can go get a massage. I can do whatever I want. I don't even have to look at Pinterest at all. But because it's a brand new project, I'm just going to be watching the stats and the analytics and just kind of having a wee think about it, but not take any action.
Mm.
And then after the dark phase, then I can take more action based on the information that I've gathered. So that's how I would do that. But when you asked before, like, how do you choose the one thing? The reason why I put that in the guide is, I mean, I wrote the guide for me as much as for,
Sure.
other people, right? Because I always had, like, the first step in the guide is to do a brain dump. Like, what are all the things across all the different departments of your business? Even if you're a solopreneur, you've still got all the departments and you're wearing all the hats. What are all the things that you want to get done? Because there's usually a gazillion and you want them all done yesterday, and that leads to burnout. So we figure out, like, what is the one thing though? Like, if you had to plot out one thing at a time, what would that be? That's what I mean. So whether that is, you asked that question before, like whether that is a business strategy, or whether maybe you're going to take the next lunar cycle and just figure out like what you enjoy. Maybe there's a hobby that you might want to give a go, like just a project across work or life that you would normally cram in and try and get done immediately. How could you plot that out across the cycle of the moon so that you've at least got one quarter of the moon where you just get to relax? For
Yeah.
goodness sake, just get to
Yeah.
relax and take care of yourself.
So this specific thing, when you're working with one of your clients, your coaching clients, I know that they are coming to you and you know what they're thinking already, right? You've been in their shoes. Is there a specific mindset block that you're like, okay, I can help you with this? Or is there something that you see all the time that tends to help them break through and snap into understanding relaxing is okay and it's also very important and you can't miss out on it? How do you handle that with a coaching client? What would you guide them to do?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of deconditioning, I guess, right? Because we are built, or we are taught to survive in a masculine world, in a masculine structure, and we are taught to show up the same way with the same energy every day, all
Right.
day, every day. And we, like the feminine side, is just not on it at all. So we're kind of breaking all that down. I would say, there's a few people teaching it. I think it's definitely coming to the forefront now. And so we just need to acknowledge that, hey, everything that we've learned was to fit into this masculine structure. And now we just need to give ourselves a little bit of grace and a little bit of space and a little bit of time to just really pick the pieces that work for us and really try to let go of the stuff that doesn't actually work for us, that's leading us into these lives and businesses that are not satisfying.
Hmm.
Because I think it's all many gens, or maybe it's just me, but my goal is satisfaction, right? As
Yes.
opposed to frustration. Is that all many gens?
All generators. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're not feeling satisfied, I don't want to say you're doing it wrong, but you could be doing it better for you. not for anyone else, right? Because especially if you're a business owner, you've got a team or you're a mum or whatever, like we so quickly get to the bottom of the pile. We're just like, okay, fine, I'll take care of everyone else except me.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a really simple strategy. The moon phase planning is just a really simple strategy to just make sure that at least once every lunar cycle, you are putting yourself first
Yeah.
so that you can be the best version of yourself for everybody that's relying on you.
Yes, that's the point. Yeah. And we just love to lie to ourselves and think that that one little quarter, if we just push, 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 it's going to be even better for them. But it really isn't.
Yeah.
Thank you for speaking to that. Starting to honor the feminine wisdom. You talking about space and grace, and that's your company name, and I love it. I've always been like, like a little sigh of relief every time I hear you say it. I also thought we've been taught half the side of the yin yang sign, right? Like I grew up as I'm a elder millennial, like just on that little, I'm a cusper there. And the yin yang sign was so popular with growing up. I thought it was cool. I loved to draw it. And when I did my yoga teacher training, I learned that it's masculine meets feminine. And in order to have that equilibrium, yeah, I hate using the word balance, but I mean that's what we're going for. Like we got to have everything we've been taught. So we're like really well trained in the masculine, and then we just are missing half the sign here. We've got to balance ourselves out, and then we get to be the whole yin yang sign. That visualization makes a lot of sense to me.
I love that. I mean, I was taught that hard work and hustle is the only way to success. But I've been questioning that for so long because I'm like, but I did get this success, or this success, I say in air quotes, because I did make all the money and I did sell a really successful business, but I felt terrible. I spent the 6 months after selling that business pretty much on the sofa going, holy shizzle, like what just happened? So, and I'm still dealing with burnout.
Sure.
Like, I would say it's still very much in everything that I do, everything that I take on. I'm getting better at going, okay, but do I have the energy? Because I don't know, again, I'm not sure if it's a managing thing, but I have a lot of ideas. I have a constant flow of ideas, and they're all amazing.
Mhm.
Like they're so good. I'm like, oh my gosh, why hasn't this been done? This is amazing. This is going to help this group of people. This is going to help this group of people, right? And fortunately, now that I know about human design, I know that I get to feel that excitement and I get to ride out the emotional wave. And when I get to a place of neutrality, if I still want it, then I can start working towards it. But what I used to do was I would just get really excited and think it needed to happen and then just put heaps of action behind it and then end up in a place where I was like, oh, actually, I don't want to do this. Or I do, but I have no energy for this. And so I've gotten a lot better at going, this is a great idea, but not for me.
Yeah.
Or it is a great idea, but not for me right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And so I don't know if you do this yet, but I have an ideas board and I always give my manifesting generators that idea too. So I use a whiteboard that I can see all my amazing ideas and just remind myself like I create ideas, I have amazing ideas coming, and then you can use that as something to respond to. So it's like your menu of options as a generator, learning how like what one is drawing me in right now. And then for you, of course, making sure you explained it beautifully, but having an ideas boards as a generator so that you can always have it there to respond to when you're feeling blah, like, do any of these things call to me right now?
Such a great idea. I hadn't thought about that, but I'm a little bit odd in that something I realized the other day was because I was trying to come up with ideas for my next podcast, but for my next episodes, but I was trying to come up with it, right? I'd forgotten about the whole respond to strategy. And then I clicked on one of my spreadsheets or my Google Sheets, and I realized that I had created an entire spreadsheet of ideas. And I was like,
Yeah.
well done, Michal. Like I'd completely forgotten that I'd done that. And so, so
Yes,
yes,
me too. I love that.
yeah. So it's not on a whiteboard where I can see it, but it is in my computer. And I did the work when I was in the zone and then completely forgot. So anyway, I'm sure I'm
Oh,
not the only one that does that, but I
Yeah.
was quite excited because I was like, oh, this is brilliant. I can just respond.
That's perfect. It's a great strategy to have. And you didn't even know you did it. I do that quite often. Anything that's out of sight, I'm like, it's a fun delight whenever you do find those things. So kind of moving towards wrapping it up, I heard you talk about, okay, we want to live in satisfaction. And it really resonated with me when you said, I built this business, I had the quote unquote success, but I wasn't enjoying life. And I'm still recovering from this because I just went too hard. That burnout is so real for me. And I know it's so real for so many people that I work with, so many women especially. And like when you were describing it, I kept getting the word freedom. What you're describing here is you're moving towards having a life that you create with your own freedom, not feeling like oftentimes I'm very dramatic about like I'm a slave to my schedule because I did it to myself. But freedom is like having that and control is another one of those buzzwords, right? But it's like I am creating one that I can enjoy along the way while I'm building the same quote success. So what would true freedom look like in business and how could you help clients start to move down that path if you have anything additional because you've given us lots today as well.
Yeah, well, freedom is my top value,
Mm.
but in saying that, I built a location-based business that was open for 11 and a half hours a day. And so this is all stuff that you learn, right? In retrospect, I'm like, that was a terrible model for me. But I didn't know what I didn't know because I just thought that's what needed to happen. And hey, it worked, right? I mean, it was a very successful dog daycare and I sold it for lots of money. So,
You got
um,
data that it didn't work for what you were going for.
exactly. I was like, well, I didn't build a freedom-based business by any stretch, but I did build a successful business. So freedom's my top value, but it means different things to different people, right? And so for me, I love working from home. And that was where that disconnect started really happening with my dog daycare was I was like, I would go in there for 3 days a week and I loved like hanging out. Like I wasn't allowed to go in the dog lounges, but somebody would bring me out puppies to cuddle and stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm like, oh, this is great. Thank you. This is perfect. And I loved so many parts about the business, right? Like I was exhausted, but I loved so many parts, like the clients, of course, the dogs. I loved my team. So there were really, really good things. But anyway, what I started realizing was that I really loved working from home with my cat on my lap. Like, I love dogs, obviously, but I also love cats. And that's a very different vibe when you've got your gorgeously snuggly cat on your lap. So I was like, oh, this feels really out of integrity. Like, I'm expecting my team to show up for these hours, for these shifts, but I don't want to. I want to stay here with my cat. And so that's where I started kind of going, oh, there's a little bit of a disconnect. I should probably, hand this business over to somebody else because it just wasn't the right model for me. I love working from home. I love Zoom. Like, as terrible as COVID was, I'm so glad, I'm so grateful for Zoom and how it opened up the world.
Great.
So for me, freedom is about being able to work from anywhere as
Mm.
long as there's an internet connection. But
Yeah.
I still, I do coaching sessions. And so those are still like based on the hour. It's still kind of, I don't want to say trading time for money, but it is like I'm still showing up. It's not like it's a passive thing where people just log into a membership or a course, but it just feels very, very different. And I can control my calendar, right? So if I'm doing something or going somewhere or whatever, I can control my calendar. So I feel like this is a freedom-based business for me. But everybody has to figure out what works for them and what their values are. So that's something that I do with my clients as well. Figure out like what do you want? Like if nobody was going to judge you, if it was all going to work out,
Mm.
if you got to be and do and have exactly what you wanted, what is that? Because
Mm.
we don't really ask. We don't ever believe or dare to ask those sorts of things. And so that's like the top of the line, like figure that out and then we can build the strategy. And yeah, there is strategy and you are going to have to show up. It's not like when I talk about feminine energy, it's not like we just work when we want to. Like maybe that works for some people, but I'm more about let's get the structure, let's get everything in place, and then we're making sure that we get to be who we are and what we want to, how we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we're making lots of space for joy and creativity as part of our structure. But I haven't yet met anyone, and I'm not saying they don't exist, but I haven't met anyone who just shows up only when they want to and has a really successful business. But it's not to say they're not there. I just don't know anybody who can do that, who can literally just go, boom, this is my idea. I'm going to get on Facebook Live. I'm going to make $100,000.
Well, maybe we could be the first. I'm just kidding.
Hey, maybe that's my next goal.
Well,
Yeah.
gosh, this was so fun. I just love learning from you. I love how when you share and you've got these other examples, it's just right there where I am. And I know a lot of our listeners are as well. Let's say that we have a listener out there that heard our conversation and they haven't started doing any of this work. They're not sure where to start. Maybe they're overwhelmed by the idea of changing, right?
Mhm.
One of the things that you said very clearly, maybe without the word joy, was like, do you have one small action that you would say, do this first in order to start bringing some more joy into their business journey right away?
For me, it always comes back to what made the biggest impact for me, and that was just noticing that I was in the dark phase of the moon and I got to just stop and giving myself that permission to stop. So I would say, I'm not sure when this interview is going to come out, but just download a free app from the Play Store,
Mhm.
figure out what the moon cycle is doing, and just give yourself that permission to take care of you during that part of the cycle. And then everything else you can do later if you still want to.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Thank you. Is there anything else that you want to share before we say goodbye today?
No, I don't think so. I love how you brought in all my human design. I'm still playing with that. I'm still not an expert at managing my own behavior and around that. And I will say, when I first started hearing about human design, because I'm a 5/1, I did a massive deep dive and I wanted to integrate it immediately. And I love that you reminded me it's about that experimenting. It's
Yeah.
not about having it done and locked in. It's like experimenting. So thank you for the reminder and thank you for having me. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. Yeah, human design is a tool for the toolbox. This moon phase planning is another tool. And when we see them, we can respond and use them. So I love it. Thank you so much. Make sure that you download that guide and give it a try. And then I want to hear from you on what you chose as your activity and how the moon phases went, what you chose to relax in, or what that looks like for you. So you can DM me on Instagram. You can join the free Facebook group, Inspired by Design with Katie Rupert, and share your thoughts, share your questions. And Michal, thank you so much for being with us today. I can't wait for our listeners to hear our conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Inspired by Design with Katie Rupert. If today's episode sparked something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Share your takeaways, subscribe, or even leave a review to help others find the show. For more tools and insights, visit my free Facebook group. And until next time, keep embracing exactly who you are and move forward one inspired action at a time.